Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? Ready for some new drama? Let's go to the first one, about OP's fiance, who lets his ex-wife and their child live in his spacious and luxurious apartment, while he and OP have to live a little bit more modest. Well, OP thinks there is something her fiance is hiding from her, and she is right. Listen to the story and update to find out, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My fiance and I met about 3 years ago. He proposed a year ago. That's when we moved in together. Everything's been wonderful with our relationship. He is kind and gentle and very caring and amazing. Before me, he was married, and their marriage ended 5 years ago. He never speaks about his ex-wife, but they're civil and seem to be on good terms. They have a daughter together who is almost 6 and lives with us on alternate weeks. The co-parenting is going well. As I said, my fiancé never speaks about his ex-wife. He never mentions her. I was curious in the beginning and asked him several times to know more about his marriage and previous life, but all he ever said is that they were incompatible. I'm not as curious anymore. Only problem I have is that my fiancé left her his big beautiful 4-bedroom apartment in the city that he inherited from his father, even if they had a prenup. We live in a much smaller 2-bedroom apartment that isn't in the city. Since we have my stepdaughter half the time, I felt it was odd that he just doesn't take the apartment back. Also, he left her his Porsche that she never uses since she lives in the center of everything. The car is also his. I never really talked about it before because I was just the girlfriend. When my fiancé proposed, I started planning and thinking about our future, and I feel that now I have more to say about our finances. I started talking about us maybe taking his apartment back. We are 3 now, and we are planning more children. She is single and she has a good job. I don't think she is my husband's responsibility anymore. We don't have child support or alimony system here, a progressive European country. Whenever I brought up the subject, he changed it. He said we were doing fine, or that we would manage or move to a bigger apartment once we have more children. It frustrated me greatly, but he was evading the subject. Even if we moved, it would never be to an apartment like the one his ex lives in, rent-free. I tried to understand why he gave her everything, but no one had any answers to me. My soon-to-be sister-in-law is as confused and actually upset that he would just give her everything. So last Friday, I was the one to leave my stepdaughter to her mother because my fiancé was working late. I asked her if she would give us back the apartment since we are 3 and that I'm about to be his wife. She was a bit flustered, so I apologized to her, but she said that I didn't need to apologize and that I was right. She agreed that my question was reasonable. When I got home, I told my fiancé what happened. I felt that he got very angry, but he just told me that if I ever brought up this subject again, it was over between us. I started crying and asked why, but he didn't elaborate. He just said that if I ever brought up the subject, it was over between us. Very cold and calm. He went out and came home 3 hours later. His ex apparently told him that she was fine with moving out because he told me that if she did move out, it was over between us. I don't know what to do now. I'm confused. He is the only one who is against this idea, and he probably wants me to convince his ex to stay in his apartment. I never meant anything malicious, but her living for free in my soon-to-be husband's home is just weird. What can I do now with this mess? I don't think my request is that out of the ordinary. We are a family now, and soon on paper too. The ex is successful, and she could afford something smaller for her and stepdaughter. I don't know. Please don't be judgmental. I really need help. In my opinion, it was not OP's place to bring up the apartment with the ex. Yes, I understand OP thinks about their future and future kids, but, well, she's not even pregnant or married yet. So I think she's rushing events a little bit. But it also seems like OP's fiancé isn't very open with OP. People usually do things like that because they are feeling guilty about something. So it looks like OP did something and gave the apartment to his ex, trying to feel less guilty. Question is, does OP really want to marry someone who won't talk to her about what's going on in their head? If he won't give OP a rationale for why he does what he does, then OP is in for a troubling, frustrating time. I would be confused and upset too, not about the apartment, but about why my fiancé won't tell me what's going on. Let's see what the community's opinion on the matter is. Lil Panda Toys 5198 says, "You shouldn't have gone behind his back. You have less right to the apartment than anyone else in this story, and it isn't your place to demand for what he freely gave. Also, it doesn't sound like your fiancé is willing to share much of his life with you, e.g., what happened with his marriage and why he's supporting her. I would be more concerned about that. Embarrassed Advice 59 says, "What confuses me the most is why OP would do this even after a partner promised they'd find a bigger place if needed. What is your infatuation with this apartment that was never even yours? There really isn't any other advice to give. If you approach the conversation again, be prepared not to have a fiancé anymore. He set his boundaries, and you continue to break them. He seems hell-bent on not telling you and doesn't care to leave you over it. Are you sure this guy is good?" Miss Winter Saren 220 says, "He left his apartment to his ex-wife and his child. The child is the big part here. He's ensuring his child's future, which is exactly what he should do. You had no right to go behind his back, and if I was him, I would rethink your whole relationship. It's none of your business what he does with his money, and his inheritance is going to his daughter. His daughter is his priority, and it should be." Update. The apartment is worth $3 million US, or maybe closer to $4 million even. My fiancé got it from his father. It has been in his family since the late 1800s, early 1900s. My fiancé is not rich by any means, and we will never afford something this beautiful. That's why I wanted to know why the ex lived there. For the many who said it's for the kid's sake, this isn't true, since the kid would still be living half her time in that apartment. And that I'm not entitled to it. Is she? My fiancé and I are planning to have a life together and many children. I find it very odd, therefore, that only one of his children would get that luxury. Judge me all you want. I appreciate the few adults who can see where I'm coming from. It just felt so unfair. Now to my fiancé. I confronted him with all the information I got. I talked to my fiancé's closest friend's wife. She and her husband are the only people outside of my fiancé and his ex who knew what happened. My fiancé slept with another girl on his close friend's bachelor party. He was drunk, no excuse, and it was a one-time thing, no excuse either. His friend advised him not to tell his then very pregnant wife, but my fiancé couldn't live with the guilt. His wife ended the marriage after 6 months. I must say that I felt disgusted by my fiancé hearing all that. I was crying the whole time. The disappointment I felt was enormous. His wife chose to say that they were growing apart because she didn't want her little girl to grow up resenting her father or thinking less of him. My fiancé moved out and let her have basically everything he owned, even his private savings. I confronted him with all of this and asked him why he never told me any of this. That was on Wednesday when he had been distant and silent with me since I went to his ex-wife's. I bitterly regret that. He said it was because he was ashamed and has been living with regrets. He then told me that he was talking to a lawyer to legally give the apartment to his ex-wife. I was in shock and almost lost it. I asked him why he didn't do it earlier, and he said because he didn't think he needed to. But now his ex wants to move out because she has been hearing rude comments from my fiancé's family and friends, and my visit was the last straw. I asked him what about us and our children. He was confused. What about us? I asked him if he thought it was fair to exclude his future children from this enormous fortune, and if it was fair that his ex and her future family would share it with his biological daughter. He got very upset and told me that many people have great lives without any fortune. The apartment was hers. She made it her home. She renovated and decorated it to make it her dream home while they were engaged and newly married. His dad loved her, and he was happy that she was getting it. Now, leaving it to her was the least he could do to her. I started crying and asked him if he loved me, and he said of course he did. More than her? He said that it wasn't even comparable. Different times and different types of relationships and love. I asked him if he regretted what he did, and if he could go back, would he change it? And he said of course, even if it meant we wouldn't meet. He got upset and asked me why I'm pressuring him like this. He made a huge mistake and hurt many people. Of course, if he had the chance, he would rectify it. And even for his own selfish reasons, at least so the guilt he is living with every day would go away. I've been crying nonstop since. He told me that he loved me very much and that he is looking forward to our future, but at the same time, he is refusing to discuss his feelings, if there are any left, for his ex. Sometimes I do believe that he loves me, but sometimes I ask myself if he still had feelings for her. Romantic feelings. I've never felt anything suspicious when he is interacting with her. They are very cordial and nice to each other. I never notice him flirting or anything. Yet his friend's wife told me that both her and her husband suspect that my fiancé and his ex still love each other deeply, and that they always thought that they would end up back together once the hurt is lessened. It has been 6 years now, and the fact that she hasn't been in a relationship makes me uncomfortable. And the fact that she is getting something she has no right to, like she is stealing my dreams and future. I think I'm going mad. He is still very mad at me for going against his wish and is very distant with me. But he admitted that he feels better now he doesn't have this big secret between us anymore. He told me that maybe it was time for people to know what he really was, even his child. I'm not planning to expose him, however. This isn't my secret. 2009. I, Bella, 23 female at the time, got married to Fred, 27 male at the time. 2010. My mother, Lisa, 50 female at the time, got divorced from my dad. 2012. Fred asked for the divorce with our daughter being only 3 months old. It was a difficult time, and I went to my mother for help. I was broken inside, and thank God I had a support network to help me. My mother, however, was very distant and decided to move to another town some months after my divorce. Life was already hard enough when I received the shocking news. Lisa, 53 female at the time, was dating my ex-husband and father of my daughter, Fred, 31 male at the time. I was so hurt that I almost K myself. The whole family was shocked, and everybody stopped talking with Lisa. It was a crazy time for me. I didn't know what to do. Time has passed. I got married again. I had another daughter. My life went fine. But I can't lie that I was different. I don't trust anybody anymore. I'm always waiting for the worst. I still need sleeping pills. 2021. I'm happily married with 2 daughters, a nice family, living my life, when I was informed that Fred, 39 male at the time, who was the worst father ever, I think he saw my daughter 3 times since the divorce, had died. I was indifferent to that, and my daughter felt the same way because they didn't have a relationship at all. Well, the whole process with inheritance and everything was a mess because Lisa was making things difficult, like trying to hide some of the things he had to not share with my daughter, his only daughter. After a lot of work, everything was settled, but I know that she said to people that I took advantage of the fact that some of her things being in his name to take a part of it. 2023. My young sister Gabby, 31 female, started talking about how much Lisa changed since Fred died, and she was regretting her choices and that she wanted a chance of making things right. I am totally skeptical, and every time she starts talking about that, we fight. I don't want to have a relationship with Lisa, and if she's feeling bad, fine, that's on her. I don't need to forgive her and to build a new relationship with her. Last weekend, Gabby told me that she wants to invite Lisa to my nephew's birthday party, and I said that it's fine, but I'm not going, or sending my daughters, and mostly, my husband, since she tends to go after them. Gabby is annoyed at me and keeps trying to convince me that I should give a new chance to Lisa. On the other side, Gabby is insisting a lot, and some people think I'm being cruel because I have my family, my life is fine, and Lisa is lonely now that Fred died. I don't care. She can be as lonely as she wants. Am I the a-hole here? Am I being evil? I'm sorry, what? Am I reading this correctly? OP's mother slept with and married OP's ex-husband? Tried to keep inheritance items from OP's daughter, and some people think she deserves a second chance? Looks like OP's mother has to finally deal with the consequences of her actions from years ago. OP's sister is in her own right if she wants to have a relationship with her mother, but she cannot force OP to have the same. I think OP's sister is overstepping big time by trying to tell OP to forgive her. What OP's mother did is just betrayal beyond the pale. Let's hear the community's opinion. Okay, Sato, okay says. Not the a-hole. Gabby has some nerve, and Lisa is disgusting. Why would she want someone willing to take part in destroying her daughter's life anywhere near her kids? I would block Gabby until she gets whatever she thinks she wants out of her relationship with Lisa. I wouldn't entertain talking to her until she gives you a sincere apology for trying to force you to even think about Lisa. She's delusional. Love Beach 8 says, not the a-hole. I hate to suggest this, but you must block or at least limit contact with your sister. She's being overly pushy, disrespectful, and demanding. Block contact with your mom, too. Remind her before you do that all that happened to you, not her. She has no idea how it felt, how it has affected your life and your daughter's life long term, because she's not you. Emerald Gal says, mind you, she's only sorry because he's dead. They're both horrible and vile people. No mother would ever do that to her child. You were raised by a demon. Don't ever talk to her again. Not the a-hole. My understanding of the situation is that when she was 18 or 19, my sister was in a relationship she should not have been in. The kind where if she got pregnant, it could duck up the guy's life in a big way. She refused to A or adopt, so he offered her money to keep his identity a secret. At the time, our stepdad was threatening to kick her out, so she accepted, and to this day he gives her a stupid amount of child support. She still has to work, but she's got a lot in savings. Her student loans are practically non-existent. My nephew has a trust fund waiting for him when he turns 25, and she's able to get him stuff like a Switch without having to pinch pennies. I'm not meant to know any of this, but I've gathered it through stuff my sister has let slip over the years. Plus, I met the guy while they were together, and I put the pieces together, and when I directly asked my sister if I was right, she said I was. Presently, my sister is 27, and my nephew is 7. I was babysitting him the other day and we were watching TV, and the movie had something about a kid finding her dad after several years. This prompted my nephew to ask me if I ever met his dad, and I lied and said I don't know who his dad is. My sister has always told him that she doesn't know who his dad is, but hearing my nephew ask me that made me want to tell him. I feel like he deserves to know, so I told my sister that he deserved to know, and if she wouldn't tell him, I will. She said she's allowed to tell him when he turns 18, so that's what she's going to stick with. But I feel that making him wait 11 years isn't fair when he wants to know now, and it's unfair of her to expect me to lie to him for another 11 years. She says that she's the mother, it's her right to decide, and nothing good will come from me telling him now. I think I might be the a-hole because it's her kid, her rules, and our mother agrees that there's no point in telling the nephew now, as it could cause my sister legal issues if it was an actual legit contract she signed, and she and the father are both fine with keeping things as they are. Would I be the a-hole for telling my nephew who his father is? Multi-phased says, "You're the a-hole. This isn't your relationship, and you don't know all the details, including what the conditions of this NDA were. For instance, if the father finds out that his son has been told, he may take away the trust fund. Leave it alone." Tragic Nut says, "The child support and trust are on the condition that his identity is kept secret. You want to jeopardize that? You also want to open a major can of worms. How will your nephew react? Will he want to meet his father? His father wants nothing to do with him. Will he want to? Probably not. How will your nephew feel when he finds out that his father wants nothing to do with him? How will he feel, as a child, about his mom having kept that information from him? How will it impact his relationship with his mom? How will your sister feel when you unilaterally duck things up for her? You would be the a-hole." Crashy62 says, "You would be the a-hole. It's against your sister's wishes to disclose that info at this time. This isn't your story to tell. When your nephew is older, let your sister handle telling him.